We spent summer fall break in the Daniel Boone National Forest in the Natural Bridge State Park. First, we went to the Hansens Trail in the Daniel Boone National Forest to a location known as Hansens Point. We followed the Hansens Trail for a pretty good ways before coming upon Rough Trail on our left. A few hundred feet off of Rough Trail, there is a path off to the right, which is a unmarked path. That is not an official path of the Daniel Boone Forest, but it is a user path. It's well maintained. You go back through what is this sort of enchanted evergreen forest. The pine trees are about 5 to 7 feet in height, so you walk through that quite a ways with some campgrounds along the way. Walking out on Hansens Point at the end of the journey gives you some phenomenal views of the valley there. Getting out to the point itself, there's one moment right here that does require you to pay particular attention to where you're putting your feet, but it is not impossible. And for someone like me who is terrified of heights and cliffs, I was able to do it with a few deep breaths and a few prayers. So we walk back up to the top of the point with the best views, and you can see out across the Red River Gorge area, and you can also see several other of the well-known locations. We chose one of the campsites that was about a half a mile away from Hansens Point to call it a night. We set up camp with our hammocks with still some pretty good views off into the distance of the valley. That rock formation that you see through the tent is the same one that you could see in the 360 view earlier. We definitely made sure to have all the necessities like L8, our hammocks, some Pop-Tarts, and some macaroni and cheese to survive the overnight. Golden hour at the campsite was beautiful. The sun flooded our campsite with the sunset. As the sun did begin to set, Nick started our fire so we could fix our macaroni and cheese. It was a cold night, but we woke up to a beautiful sunrise. There was dense fog throughout the valley that morning. We decided to go and walk out to Hansens Point again for sunrise. While the fog takes away those beautiful views that we saw yesterday as we arrived on Hansens Point, this was probably my favorite point of the trip. Being able to see this blanket of fog completely pour into this valley and rise throughout the morning was overwhelmingly cool. The sun would shine through the fog. It filled up the gap between these two rock formations as we stood there throughout the morning and began to just glow on all the other cliffs that were surrounding us. We drove down just a few miles to the Natural Bridge State Park and began walking the quote easy trail to see the Natural Bridge. The easy trail is straight up a mountain. It is easy, I will give you that. The footing is easy, but it is very steep and hilly, and there are a lot of stairs. We arrived at the Natural Bridge and we were able to walk under the Natural Bridge and walk up a very tiny staircase, which allowed us to walk on top of the Natural Bridge and see the views from there. The trip down from the Natural Bridge, we picked a different pathway, and it was a lot more interesting in terms of what we were able to see in terms of rock formations. It was a lot more challenging in terms of the terrain. There were a zillion steps as an estimate. There were a lot of staircases built. We did make it down and across the suspension bridge back to the parking lot. Overall, it was a great trip, and I encourage you to get out there.